and welcome back to the next episode of Mapsimize's Deep Dive podcast with Erica and James. In this episode, we are looking at all things maps and location intelligence. So come along, let's get ready to get your data mapped.
Order, take out with a tap, find a date with a swipe, even schedule your next teeth cleaning, it's all right there on your phone. It's wild how much of our lives happen online now.
It's really something, isn't it?
It really is.
And the thing is, it's not just happening online. It's happening somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that somewhere is more important than ever, especially when you're talking about something as personal as your finances. Our source, Banking and Finance with Location Intelligence, really digs into that, how our physical location plays a huge role in the digital world, particularly when it comes to banking.
Yeah, because just knowing what we're doing online doesn't tell the whole story. It's the where that adds all the context.
Exactly. Like if you're just browsing for a loan online, a lender might see your credit score and income, but they're missing a key piece of the puzzle, where you're actually living and what that means for your financial needs.
So how does that play out in a real-world scenario? Can you give me an example?
Okay, so say you're living in a neighborhood that's really taken off recently. Property values are through the roof, new businesses are popping up left and right, that kind of thing. A traditional loan application might just look at your credit score and say, well, based on these numbers, you don't qualify for the amount you need. But they're missing the bigger picture.
Right, because your neighborhood's growth trajectory isn't factored into that equation.
Exactly. Now imagine a bank uses location intelligence and sees, hold on, this person's income might not be sky high yet, but they're in an area where property values are about to explode. They can factor that into their assessment, maybe offer a loan that takes your neighborhood's growth potential into account.
Instead of just getting a generic offer, you're getting one that actually makes sense for your life and your location.
Exactly. And it's not just about loans. Imagine you're looking for financial advice. Wouldn't you rather talk to someone who understands the ins and outs of your local market instead of some generic financial advice hotline?
Right, someone who actually knows how property taxes work in your city, what the investment opportunities are like in your specific neighborhood, that kind of thing.
It's about finding the right fit, and location data makes that possible. It's like getting restaurant recommendations. You'd probably trust a local foodie over some random online review, right? Same idea applies here.
This is already blowing my mind. But it makes me think about another point our source mentioned, identifying service gaps. What does that look like in this context?
So we've talked about how location data can personalize financial services, but it goes way beyond that. Imagine taking all that data, all those individual stories, and zooming out to look at the bigger picture.
You mean like looking at an entire city or region and seeing where people might be struggling financially?
Exactly. Financial institutions can spot trends and patterns that would have been invisible before. Like they can see if there's a whole neighborhood that's underserved by banks with limited access to branches or ATMs. Or maybe there's a rural community that's stuck with terrible internet, making online banking a nightmare.
So they're using location data to not only understand their customers better, but to actually identify areas where they need to step up and do better.
Exactly. It's about using data to make financial services more accessible and equitable for everyone, no matter where they live.
That's a powerful use of technology, but it does make you wonder if they know all this about where we live and what we do, is our privacy at risk?
It's a valid concern, and it's crucial to remember that with any new technology, ethical considerations need to be front and center. But in this case, it's important to note that financial institutions are already bound by strict regulations when it comes to data privacy.
So there are safeguards in place to make sure this information is being used responsibly.
Absolutely. It's not about exploiting data for profit. It's about using it ethically to build a more inclusive and resilient financial system. And that's a goal worth striving for.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about making things more convenient, it's about actually making a positive impact.
Exactly. And speaking of impact, location intelligence isn't just about addressing existing inequalities. It can also play a huge role in assessing and mitigating financial risks.
Okay, now we're talking about predicting the future. Tell me more.
Well, think about the kinds of risks that are inherently tied to location. Natural disasters, for one. Economic downturns that hit certain regions harder than others. Even things like crime rates that can affect property values. These all have a clear connection to where.
So instead of just reacting after a crisis, banks can use location data to anticipate what's coming and be more prepared.
Exactly. Let's say a bank knows, from historical data and location analysis, that a certain coastal area is highly susceptible to hurricanes. They can use that information proactively. Instead of waiting for a hurricane to hit and then dealing with the fallout, they can reach out to customers in that area beforehand, offer advice on how to protect their finances, maybe even tailor their products and services to better suit those specific risks.
So it's less about reacting and more about being proactive, like helping their customers weather the storm, literally.
Precisely. And it goes even further. Our source also talks about using this data to assess the overall financial health of entire communities. Imagine a bank using location intelligence to identify areas that might be at risk of an economic downturn. They could use that knowledge to support local businesses, offer financial counseling to residents, maybe adjust their lending practices to reflect the unique economic realities of that region.
It's amazing how much potential this technology has to not just react to problems, but to actually get ahead of them and create better outcomes. But, and I hate to be the one to say it, but all this data, it does make you wonder about the whole Big Brother thing. Couldn't this information be used, well, unethically?
Of course, that's the million-dollar question with any new technology, isn't it? Anytime you're dealing with personal data, especially financial data, ethical considerations have to be top of mind. But it's important to remember that financial institutions operate under strict regulations and oversight. It's not the Wild West of data out there.
So there are safeguards in place.
Absolutely. The way this data is used is heavily regulated, and for good reason. It's not about squeezing every last drop of profit out of people's personal information. It's about harnessing this data responsibly to create a fairer, more equitable, and ultimately more resilient financial system for everyone. And when you think about it that way, it's pretty exciting stuff.
I like the sound of that. So it's not really about the technology itself, it's how it's used.
Exactly. And when used ethically, location intelligence has the potential to level the playing field, especially when it comes to things like insurance.
Oh yeah, insurance. That's a whole other can of worms. How does location intelligence change things there?
Well, think about how insurance premiums are calculated now. It's often based on these broad risk assessments, right? You might be paying more for home insurance just because you happen to live in a zip code that's prone to earthquakes, even if your specific house is on solid ground. It's not exactly fair, is it?
Ugh, tell me about it. My car insurance is outrageous, and I have a perfect driving record. Guess my zip code doesn't exactly scream safe and responsible.
And that's the problem with these broad strokes. They don't reflect individual situations. But location intelligence offers a way to get much more granular. By factoring in things like your proximity to flood zones, actual crime rates on your street, even traffic patterns in your neighborhood, insurers can create a much more accurate picture of your individual risk profile.
So instead of being penalized for living in a high-risk zip code, you could actually benefit from living in a low-risk pocket within that same area.
Exactly. It's about moving away from generalizations and toward a more personalized and accurate assessment of risk, which can lead to fairer pricing for individuals and a more equitable distribution of risk overall.
So instead of getting dinged for something you can't control, like your zip code, you could actually catch a break for being in a good spot, even if the surrounding area is considered high risk. Makes sense.
It's all about getting a more personalized picture, right? And that same level of granularity can be applied to other areas of finance too. Let's say you're thinking about investments. Instead of just getting those generic recommendations based on your risk tolerance, what if you could get insights tailored to your specific region?
Okay, now that sounds like something I could get behind. It's like having a financial crystal ball, but instead of magic, it's data, right?
Exactly. Imagine knowing that a new highway project is about to send property values in your neighborhood sky high, or that a certain sector of the local economy is poised for a boom. That's the kind of intel that location intelligence can provide.
Okay, yeah, that's huge. Having that kind of information could make or break your financial decisions. You'd know if it was a good time to sell your house, maybe buy some investment property, who knows?
And it's not just about making money. It's about having the insights to make smarter choices about your financial future, period. Choices that are tailored to where you live and how your location interacts with all those bigger economic forces.
Wow, so it's really about connecting the dots between like the real world and the digital world and using that knowledge to make better financial decisions.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, those two worlds are intertwined. And understanding those connections, that's where the real power lies.
I have to say, this deep dive has been truly eye-opening. I had no idea location data played such a huge role in, well, pretty much everything. It's not just about finding the nearest ATM anymore, is it?
It's about so much more than that. It's about creating a financial system that's more personalized, more equitable, and more resilient. And that's something we can all get behind.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, next time you open up your banking app or check your insurance rates, remember this. Location matters. It's not just about where you are right now, it's about the potential that your location holds for your financial future.
Keep asking questions, stay informed, and watch this space. Because location intelligence is only going to get more important as we move forward.
Couldn't agree more. And we'll be here to deep dive into all the latest developments as they unfold. Until next time.
Thank you so much for listening. Please do remember to subscribe, comment, and share. Also, do visit Mapsimize.com if you would like to get your free account. It's free forever, so feel free to sign up. Finally, we do hope to see you next time for more insight into using maps in your business. Mapsimize.com, because it's your data mapped.